Hello and welcome to Route 9. This is DPM 64 in RCC. We're given an RT here. It talks about Yiddish language and about its perseverance. Let's get started with the passage. I'm reading the passage and we'll try to answer the questions that follows. The passage goes like this. For a language without a physical address that has come frighteningly close to extinction, Yiddish will live. Yiddish's will to live seems inexhaustible. So, for a language such as Yiddish, who was about to extinct and has still managed to survive, its will to live seems inexhaustible. Something which does not exhaust, doesn't end. The lesson is straightforward. Survival is an act of stubbornness. Yiddish has been experiencing something of a revival. So the lesson we can take from it is survival. कि अगर आपको survive करना है तो आपको जिद्दी बनना पड़ेगा. And Yiddish is on the top of it is experiencing something of a revival as well. Yiddish came to life at least a millennium ago. The earliest historical document we have date back to 12th century in the Rhineland in the Western Germany as a code switching form of communication. So how did Yiddish came into existence? It was discovered or it was invented a millennium ago, and the earliest event which we can trace back to of the first uses of Yiddish is in the 12th century in Rhineland in Western Germany as a form of code switching communication called Ishon Ashkenaz. So this was the earlier name of Yiddish, the language of Ashkenaz, juxtaposing High German and Hebrew, which was placed at par with High German and Hebrew. There is a scholarly theory that posits that combination was High German and Aramaic, which was used by Middle Eastern Jews. At any rate, Yiddish was the tongue of women, children, and the illiterate. So Yiddish was considered a language of women, children, and illiterate, and this was a combination of High German and Aramaic. So some people used to consider it. No, this is only the. It was considered to be a combination of High German and Aramaic, and it was used by Middle Eastern Jews. During the Enlightenment, secularists called Maskelyne depicted Yiddish as a contorted language incapable of civilized thought. So there were secularists who would criticize the language, calling it a language incapable of civilized thought. In their view, to be a full-fledged European citizen, one needed to speak the language of Goethe, Locke, and Voltaire. So for people like these, the Yiddish was a language of uncivilized people. It was incapable of civilized thought. It was so in order to be a European citizen, a person needs to speak the language of Goethe, Locke, or Voltaire. These are some renowned author in Europe. On the other hand, Hasidism, a religious movement that at the beginning was against the rabbinical establishment, thrived in Yiddish. So there was some movement such as this rabbinical establishment, some organization which survived in the form of Yiddish. They were using Yiddish language. The embrace of secularism is best represented by the Yiddish literary output of the 19th century. So the secularist nature of Yiddish is evident in the books which have been written in the 19th century in Yiddish, including the most beloved of Yiddish writer Solom Elsham, the author of Tavi the Dairyman, a story about Scheldt dweller whose life is redefined by secularization, politics, and anti-Semitism and immigration. So, some of the notable work written in Yiddish is a book from this author Sholem Elikam, or whatever his name is. He wrote this famous book called Tavi the Dairyman, which talks about secularism, politics, and anti-Semitism, hatred against Jews. Secularism, the acceptance of all the religions. As in the case of Tavi, Yiddish was the lingua franca of Polish, Ukrainian, Russian, Lithuanian, and other Jews. allowing them to have a neutral meeting ground while inhabiting the same stateless culture. So this was Yiddish was a language of language of freedom for all these countries: Polish, Ukrainian, Russian, Lithuanian, and other Jew people. So that could help them have a neutral ground, a language which all of them spoke. Right? It was not a language favored to any one particular community or nation. It was a language of everyone. Another enemy of Yiddish was Zionism. In the late 19th century, as the hope for a Jewish state found its ground, it was portrayed as a jargon spoken by the diaspora, the language of homelessness without a true national voice. So there was another enemy of Yiddish, which was Zionism. So they haven't explained what Zionism is as of now, but they say that in the 19th century, uh, the ambition of a Jewish state was established, and this language Yiddish was portrayed as a jargon spoken by the diaspora. What kind of diaspora? Diaspora which spoke the language of homelessness without a true national voice. To combat this deficit, Hebrew needed to be revived. तो अगर ये language was a language of homelessness and it had no national voice, there was some void that we need a national voice. So in order to fill this deficit, this gap, Hebrew was invented. Soon, the myth sprung off the Hebrew pioneer, in sharp contrast with the large nosed, hunchback Jew that Zionists themselves vilified. Hebrew, which officially became the national language of the state of Israel in the 1948. So this Jewish state, which was finally materialized as Israel, accepted Hebrew as its national language, which is now spoken by about 9 million people around the world. In contrast, Yiddish represents exile. So यहाँ पे ये जो Hebrew language है, that become the national language, that becomes a symbol of their sovereignty. जबकि यहाँ पे ये Yiddish कैसा language था? Yiddish was a symbol of exile, a longing for home. It was a backbone for the Jewish labor movement in the United States, and the feminist Emma Goldman championed women's equality and free love in Yiddish. Abraham Cahan, the feisty commanding editor-in-chief of The Forward, the left-leaning Yiddish daily in New York at the turn of century, saw the language as a tool of educating Jewish immigrants about their right. So Yiddish was used for different purposes as well. So Yiddish was a language of Jewish labor movement in United States. It was a language for Emma Goldman, which was a big-time feminist, and some other notable works as well. Given everything Yiddish has gone through, how it was a tool of cross-border continuity, how it was pushed through crematories by the Nazis, how after the Shoah it thrived in some diasporas but was pushed aside in others, its sheer endurance is nothing sort of miraculous. So after all that Yiddish has gone through, any other language would have gone extinct by now, but Yiddish has managed to survive, and that shows its true resilience. Its sheer endurance is nothing sort of miraculous, right? It's nothing sort of miraculous. Yet nostalgia alone cannot push a revival beyond its narrow means. Okay, so nostalgia alone cannot help this language survive so far. It continues to be a language without homeland, without an army, a flag, a post office, or a central bank. A language, the language of a small, dispersed people. So despite being so sidelined, Yiddish has still managed to survive. Okay, it can be inferred from the passage that author laments that Yiddish is perceived as a symbolizing each of the following except. तो ऑथर क्या मानता है कि यिडिश इन सारी चीजों का सिंबल हो सकती है बट एक चीज का नहीं. होमलेसनेस, यस इट इज अ सिंबल ऑफ होमलेसनेस, ये तो वहां पे क्लियर लिखा हुआ है. अनसोफिस्टिकेटेड, सी यहाँ पे उसने लिखा था कि इट इज इनकेपेबल ऑफ अ सिविलाइज्ड थॉट, तो यस इट इज कंसिडर्ड अनसोफिस्टिकेटेड. एंटी सेमिटिक, हेट्रेड फॉर ज्यूज, इज इट अ सिंबल ऑफ हेट्रेड फॉर ज्यूज? नहीं. अमेरिका में तो it has become a symbol of the Jewish movement. So this cannot be non-European. Yes, they have written that in order to be a full-fledged European, you need to speak the language of these people and not Yiddish. So yes, it's a symbol of non-European as well, but not anti-Semitic. That is wrong. The lesson is straightforward. Survival is an act of stubbornness. Which one of the following best describes what the author most likely to mean by the statement in the context of the Yiddish language? The survival of Yiddish can be understood as a strong tenacity of the nostalgia associated with the language of strong historical root. तो वहाँ पैसेज के लास्ट में लिखा है कि it cannot be just nostalgia that has pushed the language so far. So this is outright wrong. The survival of Yiddish can be seen as an act of resistance against a world that has often been hostile to the language and its speaker. Yeah, this seems like this is an act of resistance, how the language has been stubborn and has persevered, right? And yes, this seems like the answer. Let's keep it. The survival of Yiddish could be seen as an expression of stubbornness of Jewish identity. No, it is not even associated with Jewish identity. No, no, it's not the major symbol of Jewish identity, which has faced the threat of anti-Semitism. No, this is completely wrong. This talks about uh, completely different from what is being said in the passage. The Yiddish language has naturally endured through generation, owing to its cultural and social significance, without a coordinated campaign to keep it alive. No, we don't know if there was some campaign for the survival of Yiddish or not, but we cannot say that it has naturally endured through generations. There have been efforts made by people to keep it alive, right? People use it as a language of teaching Jews about their rights, and there are authors writing books in Yiddish to keep it alive, right? So this cannot be true, and second is my correct option. The author would agree with each of the following, except, so we are looking for something with which the author would not agree. Hebrew and Yiddish have different symbolic roles. Yes, one is a language of exile, another is a symbol of homelessness. Yiddish serves as a cultural unifier. Yes, it does. It has been mentioned in the passage time and again that it has acted as a cultural unifier. Yiddish has served as a tool for activism. Yes, there has been various movements led in Yiddish. So बहुत जगह लिखा हुआ है, यहाँ पे भी लिखा है कि इट वॉज अ बैकबोन फॉर जूइश लेबर मूवमेंट, और यहाँ पे कहीं पे क्लियरली भी ये मेंशन कर रखा है कि Yiddish become the language of that particular movement or something, right? So yes, this has been mentioned. So it has been a language for activism. Yiddish has a tainted history. It has a polluted history. No, this is wrong. This is what the author would not agree with. This is my correct option. Which one of the following sentence from the passage can be considered as a thesis statement? Thesis statement is the main idea. Right? इस पैसेज में से कौन से दो सेंटेंस आप ले सकते हो या एक सेंटेंस आप ले सकते हो जिससे पूरा पैसेज समराइज हो जाएगा. For a language without a physical address that has come frighteningly close to extinction, Yiddish's will to live seems inexhaustible. Seems like a good aphorism for the passage. यही तो बात हो रही है पैसेज में कि how Yiddish has survived through generation with its sheer stubbornness. This seems like a good option. Let's just keep it. In contrast, Yiddish represents exile, a longing for home. So, what's the purpose of the passage was to show Yiddish symbolism. कि Yiddish क्या symbolize करता है? No, उनको तो ये दिखाना था ना कि Yiddish कैसे एक stubborn language है which has survived through generation. So this is wrong. Yet nostalgia alone cannot push a revival beyond its narrow means. So this some way or the other emphasize that only that Yiddish is a language that has survived beyond narrow means, not just by nostalgia but other things as well. But this, isn't it more explanatory? Doesn't it define the passage better? Right, rather than this, which is a very generalized, short statement, so this cannot be my answer. It continues to be a language without a homeland, without an army, flag, post office, whatever. But again, does it define the idea that Yiddish is the language of a language which has survived with its sheer perseverance? So this also cannot be my answer. Hence, one is my correct option. So that was the video, guys. I'll see you in the next one.